I just finished watching the new Netflix movie Carry On, and I gotta say before we get into it, guys, this was a very, very shockingly amazing movie. Now that I'm sitting back and I'm thinking about it, honestly, I think I'd give it a 10 out of 10. I didn't expect much from it. It was just a movie that I was sitting down. My wife and I were looking to watch something. She wanted to watch this movie, and it ended up being phenomenal. So this is what we are going to be talking about today. I'm going to be breaking down the plot, all of the story points, and I'm going to say if there's anything that I liked about it or if I didn't like about it. But I don't even think there was anything that I really didn't like about it, but we'll roll through it as we talk about it, guys. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with 20 YouTube channels. So we are started off, and I didn't watch a trailer to this too, and I think that I needed to do that with movies moving forward because I didn't know what to expect going into this movie, and that only made it even a little bit better. But to be honest with you, it's also, I guess, good to know if it's the type of movie that you'd like to see, right? So we are opened up and with the movie, and there's not like a ton to break down about the beginning because you have the main character, Ethan. We find out he has a pregnant girlfriend and he needs to make some more money. They want to go on a vacation, and they are working on the busiest day of the year, that being Christmas Eve. They end up setting a point in the story that we're going to touch on a little bit, that being Ethan was trying to be a police officer. He failed at that. He wasn't able to get into the academy. Again, we're going to dive a little bit more into that, and as you know, if you've watched this movie, of course, but they're setting up the plot point there. Other than that, his girlfriend's looking at life pretty positive. He's pretty upset with life in general. She encourages him to reapply. He doesn't want to apply, so instead, what he wants to do, because he needs to make a little bit more money, he asks DEA agent Hank Schrader if he can get a promotion. Now, after a little bit of convincing, he's also introduced as somebody who's kind of just like skidding through life, barely getting by, and this was told to him, even like he was basically laughed out of the idea of getting a promotion. But after proving a little bit more, he eventually ended up convincing Hank that he wanted to be there, and he found himself being put on a baggage scanning line. This was the promotion, and this is where the movie kind of takes off. There wasn't a ton to break down with the intro itself. And this is where it gets a little bit difficult to break down because we have the problem, because the point of the movie, and there's a big giant chunk at the beginning of the movie where Ethan ends up receiving an earbud, and it's by and did we ever figure out, is it just, and I don't know if I can use this word on YouTube, somebody who's looking to take down a plane with a device? I guess we could consider him that, right? But there's not a ton we can break down, like, because first he tried writing it in invisible ink to get a message to people, but I feel like that's not what you want me to break down here. So Ethan receives an earbud. He is being threatened. They're going to kill his girlfriend. They have a sniper, and they got all of the information on this guy, when it was supposed to be the guy that he was actually covering for. And from the premise of this, I did not expect this to be as good as it was. First of all, the actors were phenomenal, and I don't know the guy's name. I know his first name's Jason, but he always plays the bad guy in the movie. I have never seen him in a role like this, and man, did he shine. He looked phenomenal. He was perfect at what he did. Like, I will sit here and say, like, after seeing that, this dude's officially one of the best actors I've ever seen. He can play something funny, serious, and now I know he can play a bad guy. I don't even know if he's ever done a movie playing a bad guy before. Like, I love this guy's work. He makes movies so much better. And it's, of course, such a difficult position to be put in if you're the character of Ethan, right? If it were me, I wouldn't think twice about it. Oh, you got a gun to my wife's head? Got all my information? Possibly threatening any kids I have? Your bag's going through, sir. That would be me personally, but I understand the dilemma. Like, of course, I wouldn't be happy about it, but I wouldn't give, like, two thoughts about him. Like, yep, red hat, got it, his bag, through. And that's what I would have to do, right? I don't know if anybody else would feel that way. And, of course, they have to stir it up a little bit more, but that's the decision that I would make. If somebody had that much information at me, I wouldn't cross them. I'd want them as my friend. Like, I'm sorry, man. I'm not taking, as horrible as it is, as horrible as it is, the decision would be easy for me to make. It's like when we were talking about Demon Slayer, and if you don't want to hear any Demon Slayer spoilers, if you happen to be watching that show, you fast forward like maybe a minute or two, okay? So there, in one of the Demon Slayer seasons, there is a huge dilemma on whether the main character should save his sister or 3 other people from getting killed. And it's like this huge thing, like, what do I do? What do I do? And I'm like, yeah, it's horrible, but I wouldn't give two thoughts about it. I'm saving my sister. The whole country could die. I'm saving my sister. Like, it's that simple to me. A whole plane could go down. I'm saving my wife. We then run into a little bit of an issue because Ethan was taken over by DEA agent Hank Schrader, putting somebody else back on the line because, and within all of that, Ethan's friend died. He was going through a lot, so they were putting everything back to normal. Ethan ended up framing that new person of being drunk at work, which I can't help but find funny because every single time I look at the actor of Hank, just look at him like, oh, really, man? Like, I think about him being Hank. Like, I know I just memed about it a couple times throughout this video, but that's what I think, and I can't help it. So, Ethan needs to find his way back on the job, and he ends up finding the guy in the red hat. The red hat gets through. He just lets him through after some consideration. Jason's in his ear. He keeps letting him go. Sorry, Jason, I know the actor's name. The Traveler. That's what we call him. And again, I'm running into another issue as I'm walking through this because typically when I make these breakdowns, I can go through a little bit more about the plot, but it's Ethan tried all of these things to make sure that somebody knows what's going on here, and the Traveler keeps interfering with him. How many times can I say, okay, Jason said, hey, don't do that, put that away, or your girlfriend's gonna die. I don't believe that's very interesting for you, so I would imagine this is going to be a little bit shorter on the side of breakdowns here because we go through a little bit more. There's something to do with another. They dive into a little bit more within like a government type level, but honestly, that wasn't too interesting to me. They just kind of figure out that it's some like super nerve killing agent thing, and there's also a bomb there. Ethan ends up secretly triggering a whole investigation there, but they frame it as like, okay, it's just Christmas Eve, we're ensuring everybody's safety, we're just gonna randomly select everybody, and they ended up getting Mateo, the dude in the red hat, secretly flagged. And this is where Ethan and Jason end up in a bathroom together, and they start beating the crap out of each other, but Ethan is so like freaked out that he just sent a bomb onto a plane that he's like puking and he's weak, but he ended up taking the gun. And the Traveler ended up arming the bomb. At that point, I don't know like what to do at that point, to be honest with you. Like, you would have to comply with them, right? And they did such a good job in this show. Like, the tensions just kept getting higher and higher and higher and higher, while it didn't get like overcomplicated, and I didn't find myself going, oh, come on. Like, it was really, really well thought out. And by the time like this happened, I realized there's like an hour left in the movie, and I'm like, whoa, what could we possibly get into now? But the show, or the movie, did such a fantastic job at keeping my eyes glued to it the entire time. It's one of those movies in a while where I didn't want to go to bed. My wife and I ended up staying up. But anyways, Ethan is then set to go actually have to defuse the bomb, but Mateo is in a private investigation room with Hank, and Ethan had to go in. He was ordered to kill him. He was really struggling to do it, but it really seemed like that he was actually about to pull that trigger. But Mateo ended up stabbing him because we figured out that Mateo had his partner in the van, which I should have thought about. Like, he had the Watcher, he had the Traveler. The Watcher had this guy kidnapped with him the entire time, and I didn't even think twice about it, but it ended up being Mateo's partner, and I thought that was a fantastic twist, to be honest with you, with Mateo actually being in the same point as Ethan, so they had to kind of work together. But the problem was they ended up having to defuse the bomb. Ethan learns how to defuse the bomb. It's a complicated process, so maybe Ethan's just a smart guy. They end up hiding Hank's body. They end up going to the baggage claim. And what the Traveler had Mateo do was actually tasked to kill Ethan. And this dude was willing to do anything, which, to be honest with you, for your partner, you gotta respect it. And Ethan was willing to do pretty well the same thing. He was just trying to do what was right for everybody. And I gotta be honest with you, man. That is a more difficult situation to be in, because then you're the one actively hurting people. But I don't know what I would do in that situation, man. I don't know if I'd be able to do that. But then again, I always say my whole job, my whole point in my life is to protect my wife, so I might have to. It's just crazy, man, that it ended up coming to that. So they ended up having a pretty fun fight within the baggage claim. It was a really, really tense scene. Like, this whole movie was just tense, man. We then reach a point where Jason ends up finding Ethan in where the baggage claim is, and what I thought was going to happen, and honestly, I didn't even think about this until I actually like watched, and I typically before these videos, I watch a couple YouTube videos or just kind of get a refresher on the entire plot. What I didn't know, or what I thought happened, was Ethan just switched the bags because he found a bag that was pretty identical to the one that Jason was trying to get. But what he did was he put the bomb inside the larger suitcase. So when Jason went on the plane, and by the way, in between all this, we figured out what exactly the motive was for this. And long story short, they were trying to get, the target was some congresswoman, while they wanted to blame it on Russia or something along the lines of that. I don't remember exactly what the point was, but it ended up being fairly insignificant. Same with that whole car chase scene. But like I said, the bag ended up being too big, so it ended up being forced to being put with all of the other baggage. Ethan ended up sneaking onto there, defusing the bomb by himself, and when the phone got pinged and figure out that the bomb was being defused, Jason ended up going down there and confronting Ethan one final time. And the tension, man, throughout this entire movie, it kept getting more and more and more and more, and it was at its absolute max right now, which was nuts. And I couldn't help but laugh a little bit during this scene, because I don't remember exactly what Ethan said, but it was something like, well, you might as well shoot me now, because whatever he said after that, and he goes, boom, and just takes him out. But He ended up grazing him a couple times, but I loved the way that this concluded. He ended up taking a piece of the bomb, and I still don't really know what it was, but he ended up locking the traveler into a secure thing on a plane I've never heard of before. Sorry, this breakdown seems to bleed a little bit all over the place, eh? Throws it in there, ends up killing him. He's locked in, he suffocates, he dies. Everything is A-okay in Ethan's world. The plane lands, Ethan's hurt, but he is okay. He saved the day. Everything ends up being okay, and then we enter a time jump. And shockingly, the traveler gave Ethan some life advice, and he also you gotta have like a big confidence boost after saving and doing what you did, right? He ended up impressing some officer, but then we skip to a year later where he ends up having his badge scanned. He's going on that trip with his child. His girlfriend had a child, what I would imagine is his wife now. They had their kid. They're going on a trip. The dude got his job back. Everything's okay. And it ended up being this like one big happy ending. I loved this movie. I loved it. I did not know anything about it. I didn't expect anything from it. I thought it was kind of weird that Jason, and apologies, I don't know his last name. He ended up playing a bad guy. He did a great job as a villain. Everybody was in there fantastic. Ethan was a fantastic actor too. Like, I loved this whole thing. I give it a solid 10 out of 10. The problem is, what kept me so invested was the mystery and the high tension. I don't know if I would love this on a second or perhaps even third watch because you know exactly what's coming. Maybe another time, maybe down the road when I kind of forget what's going on. I'm typically not one to rewatch movies anyways, but I thought it was phenomenal. I thought it was a great movie, and man, that actor, the guy who played the Traveler, and again, I apologize, I'm not up to date on my actor names. He is one of the greatest actors of all time. I wholeheartedly believe that. He made the movie. He played a fantastic villain, and I would like to see him in that role more often. Regardless, everybody did a fantastic job. I don't know how you would make a sequel to it, but I would still like to see one. Regardless, guys, thank you so much for being here and watching the video. I'm sure that you have seen some Marvel movies. Well, I recently made a tier list ranking every single moment from the Infinity Saga. If you are interested, you can check out this moment or this video right here. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care.